Hi, I'm KS Garner, and you're listening to the Solo Nerdbird podcast. Today, I was speaking with the comics writer, producer, and fellow entertainment journalist Dre Daniels, aka DaBrute, here to promote the first part of his Treble, the Rhythm Within comic series. Welcome, Dre.
Oh, the pleasure is all mine. Thank you so much for having me.
Well, thank you again for joining out, and I'm sorry for reaching out and joining us today. But outside my introduction, who is Dre Daniels in his own words?
Oh, now that's a question. That's a question to behold. Wow. Well, I am lifelong comic fan. Um, the elbow deep in nerd culture since I came out the womb. I've been a writer for quite a few years and also been a producer of comics and YouTube for and other types of media for a number of years as well. Longtime gamer, the list goes on and on of nerd cred. So, I've always been always start off as a fan first before I got into creation. Family man. That sounds about right. I think that sums it up more or less.
Well, how long have you been doing the YouTube content?
Okay, so back in 2016, I started YouTube content. I was making a retro video game channel years ago.
Uh-huh.
And I had a lot of fun doing it, going back playing games from my childhood, Sega Genesis, Super Nintendo, N64, Sega Saturn, Dreamcast, blah blah blah, all those ones. I did like commentary over my retro reviews, and a lot of people enjoyed how I was doing it and stuff like that. I'm like, hey, you know what? Maybe I should get into more voiceover stuff or whatever. But so like I started doing a little voice work for like Sirius XM commercials and stuff like that.
Oh, wow.
Which was, that was okay.
Mhm.
Um, it didn't really boom into a career. As it were, it was like a couple one-offs here and there. But at the time, like I stopped doing YouTube for a while because I was focusing on other things, life, blah, 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 blah. So when I was writing I was always been writing comics, but I finally decided, hey, I'm gonna take it seriously and start actually producing them myself. Because if you're trying to rely on the big boys to get you signed, it's an uphill battle. So I was like, hey, you know what? I'm gonna write it, produce it, direct it. I'm gonna do it all myself. I do it all myself except for the art because I'm all thumbs. So it's not gonna do me any good. But while I was producing comics and everything, and my Trouble Rhythm Within started taking off. The first issue did pretty well. The second issue did well too. Other creators started reaching out to me like, hey, what should I do? What can I do? What can I do more? I want to grow. I want to expand my audience and stuff like that. And I was like, man, I used to run YouTube back in the day. Oh, let me do that again. And I was like, hey, I'm gonna bring YouTube back and I'm gonna have a segment for myself, which I call the Brutal Rants, which I just talk about something that's in the media or like in comics or a movie or cartoons and talk about like how much I liked it or disliked it, and I just go all in on that. And then I have a segment called the Indie Corner, which I do interviews with my fellow independent comic creators, and then share their work. They get just like how you're doing here. They get an opportunity to sit back and talk about their work and all the things they're working on, the Kickstarters that they're trying to produce, or Indiegogo, or anything that they're trying to get into a different space. And I enjoy that. I enjoy creating a platform for my my fellow colleagues. So I think that's when I really started getting back into YouTube and doing it again, because I grew up like as most most folks fans of the big two, Marvel, DC, and to an extension Dark Horse and Image. But some like they've been lacking a lot recently as far as quality of their stories and things like that. And I believe that this is a time for independent comic writers and producers to step their game up and to show that the buying customer, like, hey, we can produce too. We can create really cool stories as well. So come check us out. So that's when I was like, hey, this is definitely something that's needed for the independent scene. So I was like, yeah, let me get back into YouTube.
Yeah, I think it's interesting when I do these interviews to hear how people got back into what they're currently working on, because they were working on it before, like a long time ago, and then they put it to the side because, like you said, life happened, or they developed other interests, something that can give them probably more immediate results than what they were working on before. And it's just how things happen, how timing happens a lot of the time too, because I'm very impatient. So I'm trying to practice more patience and just letting life happen, I should say. So, and just to pretty much just go with what works for me in my life at that time. And I can always come back to it. So it's really interesting how you were working on it as something else before. The YouTube was more of into retro gaming, and then you put that to the side because it wasn't really doing anything for you. And then you went into another interest that you had, which was comics, which you probably put on the back burner because of something else. And then because of your interest in comics and trying to develop that more, it got you back into YouTube, which now has expanded from not only the gaming and the rants that you have, but now interviewing other people, which also helps expand, I should say, promote your YouTube page, which you weren't getting before.
Exactly.
It's interesting.
Exactly. It's fun. It's funny how things work. It's really funny because you're like, oh, I'm gonna do this forever. Wait, no, I'm not. Oh, wait, I'm gonna do this forever. Oh, wait, no, I'm not. And it's just like, oh, this is important now, but oh, wait, not anymore. But it's all about like you mentioned patience. It's definitely a virtue for sure, because it takes time to, and especially if you're looking for instant gratification. That might not be the move, but if you're there if it's a passion, that's where the endurance of it comes in, and that you have the wherewithal to just keep pushing forward, because being an independent comic creator, it's not easy. It's always been a grind. It's going to be a grind until the end of time. But if you're doing something that you love, and that you're passionate about, you'll keep pushing through. And that's the thing. Like, I've always been passionate about my work, my comic work or other things. I've always been passionate about it. So I'm just like, hey, I don't think I'm gonna become Jay-Z overnight, but I'm gonna, put forth a strong effort to, if I can make a full-time career out of it, sure. Am I at the point right now? Can I make full-time career out of it? No. But it brings a little bit of bacon here and there, so I can't be upset. If anybody's willing to pay for my insanity, I'm always going to be on board, and I'm always eternally grateful for those that are fans of my work or fans of my comics. And but for those that are just trying to start out, I'm like, hey, be passionate, don't give up, don't quit. Like, if this is something that you love to do, just do it. You'll never know what might shake out of the tree. You might get the golden apple, might just fall right out. But if it's a passion, go for it.
Yeah, I always tell people, especially those who like are constantly posting, you never know who's watching, even though they may not like the stuff outright, or they may not try to get in communication with you or anything like that. Somebody is always watching, especially when I get requests for interviews from people that I didn't even know they followed me, or I didn't even know they knew I existed. But they're like, oh, we've been following you for a while. I was like, oh, I've never heard of you before, but thank you. I appreciate it. So yeah, just to add on to that. But what is Treble, the Rhythm Within, about?
Okay. That's actually my favorite question that anyone has ever asked me ever. I love it when people ask me that question. So this story is an action adventure musical, which is fundamentally based on my character, who is named Amir Green. He gets infected by a water-based virus, which only affects people with O negative blood. And those with O negative blood get special abilities. And the special ability that he ended up getting is that he gets a different superpower based on the genre of music he listens to.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And so he is a high school student / DJ, And and his stage name is DJ Treble. And so after he's at this party, he ends up DJing this party. Little do you know, he was infected by the virus, and he absorbed all of the sound waves from the DJ booth. And so after the absorption, then he starts getting these abilities. Now, how these abilities were I created them was based off of the emotional, psychological, and social responses to music based on scientific studies and things like that. So like if he's listening to rock music, most folks equate rock music with aggression or intensity. And so he gets adrenaline spikes and super strength. And I like colors, so I add a glow to his hands, and the glow to his hands will be red when he listens to rock music. When he listens to hip hop music, when most people think of hip hop, they think of somebody that's tough, somebody that's hard, somebody that's a gangster. He gets armor. He gets armor. When he listens to classical music, most people think of when you think like when we were growing up, you always said, "Hey, have your baby listen to Beethoven and listen to Brahms because he'll be smarter when he grows up because he's listening to this music." So I take that ideology and import it here. Like in this one, when he listens to classical music, he has increased intelligence, and also I liked the leader from the Incredible Hulk, who has the really large head. He his head extends a bit, and he has like veins that pop up on his head, and his hands glow green because it's a jade color. It's a reverential color that people can equate with like emeralds and stuff like that, like high society type thing. So I took all those ideas and just try to mesh it into one. And throughout this adventure, through the rhythm within, the whole adventure is basically who is the one that poisoned the water. So who turned Washington D.C. I'm from Washington D.C. Let me I forgot about that. I'm from Washington D.C. So the whole story takes place in the city, and because it's a dense enough population, and it's not like billions and billions of people over at one spot. It's a pretty small city.
Yeah.
And when you look at the charts of who has what blood type in our city, mostly it's usually it's A's and B's or AB positives and things, but O negative is actually very rare in our city. So I was like, hey, that's the blood type I'm going to use, and it worked out pretty well. But the whole thing is like, hey, like there's musical. It's a musical. I wrote original lyrics for when he's listening to certain songs, so that everybody can know what kind of music he's listening to. And then we have the color shades, so you can like, that's the ability he's using. That's the ability he's using. So I go through quite a spectrum of different genres of music. And then his rogues gallery, the villains are also individuals from the city that happen to be infected by the same virus. And so it gets really interesting. It's not really, some folks kind of think like it's a coming of age story. Not really. It's mostly just action adventure and a hero's journey. That this arc is about the hero's journey of a kid that just wants to hang out to becoming a hero, and to becoming basically the poster boy for the city, going from zero to hero, as it were. So it was a lot of fun to write. At this point, I have produced 6. It's going to be an 8-part series. It's an 8-part series. Right now, I've produced 6, and number 6 actually drops on April 8th, which the point of this recording is tomorrow. That will be dropping tomorrow, so I'm excited about that. And it's getting to the really nitty gritty of the story. So like the first 2 is like our introduction and how we get to know our characters, and then we have an incident that happens in the first attempt at heroism where he fails. Then we get introduced to one of our big bads, which honestly was my favorite character to write. I love villains. I'm a villain guy. Our big bad named Sharkbait, who is a tribute to the Creature of the Black Lagoon. I don't know if you ever seen it or heard of it, but that's from like the
I've heard of it.
40s, 50s. Yeah, it's a tribute to the Creature of the Black Lagoon, but he's a monster. He's a man-made monster that doesn't want to be a monster. So I kind of got a little like I grew up watching a lot of the like Frankenstein and Wolfman and stuff like that, like creatures that are supposed to be monstrous beings, but at the same time they're just people that need help. And I kind of craft him around that idea that like, hey, I'm just a dude trying to get help, but I look like a freak. I look like a monster. And now people treat me that way. Or this lab that said they were going to help me, but they just want to use me as a weapon, all that stuff. And then things culminate to the point that this individual has to then become the monster that he looks like. And it's really sad and it's really heartbreaking how that whole little art plays out. But I really liked writing him. He's definitely my favorite character. It's really good, and I think a lot of people can relate to the idea of being placed in a bubble and being like, hey, you are this because you look this way, or you or we put you in this predicament. But then sometimes you snap and you become what people always assume that you are. So I really like that arc. I really like that. But the entire arc, the whole entire Rhythm Within arc is this is pretty much I like to just put in Star Wars language. That's just me. This is my A New Hope. Okay. This is my A New Hope. My next series, which I'm writing right now, is going to be my Empire Strikes Back. And then the third one is my Return of the Jedi. And that's kind of like how I'm doing. Like, so it's like the intro is like, oh, we have some fun. We have a lot of this. We see our hero grow. The second one, our hero is taking a lot of L's and over his head. And we're introducing even bigger bad threats. And he's going to be at his lowest point at the end of it all. And then the third one is going to be redemption. Where he's like, oh man, he's able to overcome and turn things around. So that's pretty much how I got this whole pretty much Treble anthology worked out as of right now.
Okay, so I have two questions.
Okay.
With Zamir's, I guess, abilities that he gets, are these more of like defensive abilities in a way? Because you say like with the rock music, he gets kind of aggressive and agitated, but then when he listens to hip-hop, he gets armor, right? Yes. And then when he listens to classical music, I guess it increases his I guess mental capacity in a way to learn stuff, right? So is it like a mix of both? Like I guess we'll read how he learns how to, I guess, manage each ability in a way. Because like with armor, I was like, okay, he's defending himself against something, but then with the rock music, he's getting agitated and aggressive, and it's like, oh, so it's offensive. So
So it's like a mix. It's a mix. So an excellent question, by the way. Excellent question. How I designed the abilities in that regard is that they will be able to be interchangeable. And he would have to, as he learns how to use his abilities, learn which one comes into play when. There's gonna be a moment in when he first tries to be engaged in heroism, he makes the wrong call. He makes the wrong call and uses the wrong ability and almost gets himself killed. It's basically some are offensive and some are defensive, but they're all interchangeable at a certain moment. Like let's just take something random. Let's just say somebody shooting at him. Of course, I need armor, so I'm gonna listen to rock music. Using the hip hop, I get my my armor defense makes me bulletproof. Let's say a building is collapsing. The armor is going to give him a little bit of a strength increase, but not enough to actually grab anything. So I'm like, oh, I got to listen to rock music. I need strength so I can hold this thing up so it doesn't collapse or something like that. But I like to use the intelligence one as a problem solver situation. is a problem solver, as in, hey, I don't know how to figure this out. Let me listen to classical music and let me increase my intelligence and try to figure out a good plan in order to then use a different ability or what have you to find success. And then there's a couple other abilities in there as well. But yes, but some are offensive, some are defensive. But it's all about learning and growing and changing. And like throughout the arc, he starts to learn how to just switch. And it's a really important, I believe it was in the middle of the arc, either issue 3 or 4, where he actually has to get training. He actually has to get training to control his abilities. Because like in every good story arc, you need the wise old sage to give you a helping hand, because he's young. He's young. He's impulsive. He really doesn't know what he's doing. But after his major failure, when he almost loses his life, one of his confidants, one of his good friends, is like, "Look, if you're going to go out and try to do this thing, you're going to need some training because you suck. You're gonna get yourself killed or get other people killed." And then he seeks out a grandmaster to teach him how to control himself mentally, because the physical aspect is already going to be there. He's young, he's spry, he has these powers, but he's up here. He has to learn how to control the music within him, because there's an issue. I'll share it with you here. There's an issue that he has where every time he listens to music, he transforms early on. That means he could be walking down the street and then somebody's bumping something out of their window, and then he starts transforming. There's no way that's going to work out. So he has to learn how to tune in and out sounds that he does not want to affect his mind, so that he can be able to change when he wants to. Because if I'm just at a party and I was partying with my friends and then music changed, now I'm freaking out and transforming, it's not going to work. But that type of training was exactly what's necessary, so he can get over the hump and be able to actually be useful instead of just transforming all willy-nilly.
Well, I think would be interesting, and I don't want to like ruin it or put a put a bug in your ear too much about it, but I'm thinking eventually his enemies are going to catch on. So say like he's, for whatever reason, he's deafened, right?
Okay.
So he would have to, I guess when you said something about sound waves, because people who are hearing impaired, the way that they can listen to music is if they listen to it based off of the sound waves, or like the intensity of it in a way. So I think that would be really cool, that he can still get like the rhythm of it and figure out what it is that he needs in order to gain access to that power. And then when you say him tuning it in and out, I think it'd be interesting if he can just like replicate the sound in his head instead of actually listening to it. I think that'd be interesting too. So I don't know if you've already explored that or if you maybe want to. I don't want to ruin it for anybody.
So this is what I would say. I believe you stole my notes somewhere. Somewhere you stole my notes. Because actually, no, that's fine. That's fine. No, I'm glad that you picked up on that idea and that type of savviness. Because in a further arc, I am going to create a character that manipulates sound in an area so that he cannot transform. That of course learns how to. Now, what you just said is spot on. What you just said is spot on, because through his training in our first story arc, he has to learn that music isn't what's transforming him. That's simply the key that unlocks the door. The powers are coming from, according as the title, within. That's where it comes from, within. But music is is the thing that unlocks the door. So in this further, got my notes. I don't know how you got my hands on my notes, but then somehow he's going to have to find a way to tap into his inner power without literally having the key to open the door. But yes, you're absolutely spot on. You impress me. You impress me. You're very spot on. And I think you're the only person to actually question that. You're the only one to question it, which I am
Yeah,
impressed. I'm
that's, I
impressed.
mean, for me as I also do my own urban fantasy writing. So
Oh,
you have
sweet.
to kind of explore those like plot holes or something. You have this ability. Okay, what happens when you don't have it anymore,
Yeah.
right? And also, I'm just starting as a game master. So
Okay.
my players want to
Was
do
it
this,
D
they
like
want to do
D and
that.
D?
Yeah,
Like
like
D?
D&D. I just started
Okay.
D&D 5th edition. And
Okay.
so my characters want to do this and they want to do that. Okay, so what happens when you can't do it anymore? What's going to happen then? So I'm always thinking, you want to do this. Okay, what happens again? What happens if you can't do it anymore? How are you going to get around that problem? So that's just from my perspective.
I like that. I like that. And no, and that's the look, and that's the type of um forward thinking that I love. I love that type of forward thinking when it comes to story arcs and things like that. Like it's been done, like that type of idea has been done 1,000 times, but it's necessary to show the depth of your character. Because now we've gotten to know all the things you can do. Like let's take something simple like Superman, for instance. If you put him in a red sun, all his powers are gone. So now you're gonna now Superman has to literally figure out a way to win without using his abilities, because that's what makes it interesting. Like there was one when Daredevil actually loses his hearing. Oops, like now you gotta figure something else out. It's very, very, very important to show, especially to our audiences, um, trials and tribulations of our characters. Be like, okay, let's take something away from him. Let's see what he got now. So because now that also brings in more investment into the character, because now let's say we've seen him do all these cool, amazing things and get out by the skin of his teeth or what have you. But now it's like, okay, help me get more invested into this guy. Help me like him more or dislike him more. If he's a heel, why not? And it's really, really, really important to have those type of trials to really show the audience, and it's more relatable too as well, because like there's certain times in our life when we lose things or certain things that's just not going our way or something outside of our control, that then we got to figure out another way around. We have to figure out an alternative. Like if your car breaks down today and you got to get somewhere in 25 minutes, you can't sprout wings and fly, but you better call an Uber. You always got to find a way around things. So that's an excellent question. Excellent question. Thank you so very much.
Oh, you're welcome. And my second one is, since you wrote original lyrics in the comic for Zamir, are you thinking about maybe commissioning a composer or doing your own music? Because that's a thing a lot of people are starting to get into, where they'll attach music to the comic book to help, I guess, sell it more instead of selling it separately in a way. So is this something maybe you're thinking about doing?
Yes, so it's something I'm thinking about. I've been in touch with a couple of my one of my friends that works in the comic industry and music industry as well. I've spoken with him a couple of times about it. I haven't pushed forward anything uh, concrete. That's the right word. Concrete as of right now. Because I'm actually going to try to work with a composer. Like I have a friend of mine who's a composer to just one thing. Well, to make theme music for each one of the types of songs, because I'm a big theme music guy. Because funny story, when I first started writing these arcs, a buddy of mine was like, hey, you should write this as a screenplay and maybe pitch it to what was around the time. I think only Netflix was around the time or whatever. They're like, hey, maybe you should write this as a screenplay and pitch it to Netflix or something. I said, hey, that's a good idea. I am gonna do that. So I did write my comic series as a screenplay, and I still have the screenplay version of it. And I sat there and I was like, hey, look, since I am writing lyrics and all this other stuff like that, I said, yo, I gotta make music to this thing. I gotta put some tracks to this. I gotta get my Wale on and get this joint cracking up in here. So I started um writing how many pages did I write? Maybe 1 or 2 pages. Maybe 1 or 2 pages of musical lyrics. I can't write music. I used to play guitar years ago, but I can't write music at all. I might as well just put my thumbprint on it and just hope and pray that something comes from it. It was definitely something that's been rattling around in my mind to actually get done. More than likely, once I finish producing this arc, once this arc is done, I'm hoping maybe by year's end, this arc is complete. And when I'm making the full graphic novel version of it, to start producing the music that would be accompanying it. Because I think it's really I really like this idea that that was really fun, that it's a musical instead of just having that music in your head, like you can actually have something to listen to along when you're reading it or experiencing it, or have like a mixtape, like 5 tracks or something like that, nothing too crazy, like a mixtape to go along with it. I think that would be a really fun idea. But I'm gonna hold off until all this production is done, so that I'll have one thing done before jumping into yet another project. But it's definitely in the works for sure.
Yeah, I think a mixtape would be good, and you do maybe like for each part, once the arc is completely finished, it would be a track for each part. So it's like when you said it was like 8 parts.
It's gonna be 8. Yeah, it's gonna be 8
parts. So yeah, it'd be 8 tracks, and then you do like a mock up of what the CD would look like, what the cassette would look like, what a vinyl would look like, or even like Zamir's promotional poster, what that would look like. Well, so maybe something, those could be like rewards if you ever decide to do a Kickstarter. I don't know if you ever.
That's a really good idea. I didn't think about that. That's a good idea.
Yeah, I mean, okay, so a little bit about me. I went to school for graphic design, and I designed a mock-up CD for Wale, and it was all red lettering with a yellow background. I think it was for the album About Nothing.
Okay.
Right. And that gave me, I got like an A on it, and everybody really liked it. And I thought that, and I get the CD, everything was exactly the same. It was the cover art, the back of it with all the tracks on it, and then the CD that matched with it. So that's where I got the idea from. I was like, oh, that'd be interesting. This is what it would look like in a poster of him. Maybe you can do like, this would probably be, I don't know what your budget looks like, but maybe a little animation, like maybe a 15-second animation you can put up on Instagram of some of the, like maybe one of the tracks playing in the background while Zamir is DJing and people are dancing, just something small. Again, I don't know how much something like that would cost. I'm pretty sure it would cost a lot of money, but I think that'd be interesting to go along with it, especially maybe towards the end, or again, if you're looking to do a Kickstarter.
Yeah, that's a really good idea. My goodness. So, okay, so let me flip it just for a hot second. So you went to school for design. Are you still in design still?
I mean, I do all of the promotional stuff for Solo Nerd. So I did the logo, I do all the thumbnails. Anything design wise that you see is pretty much me. I've done all of it. I didn't do my book covers, but like I'm very big into like having my input on it. Like I try to give the artist freedom, but I try to be involved as much as possible.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. I just went to school for graphic design. I couldn't get a job in graphic design, but I'm still, in a way, my thing when people would ask for your New Year's resolution every year was to live a creative life in some way, shape, or form. So whether it was in drawing, or I used to do portraits for people.
Sweet.
It'd be in graphic design, it'd be whatever, writing. And then I started taking my writing more seriously, and I self-published 2 books, right? And I'm trying to get the 3rd one done by the end of the year, hopefully. Nice. That's my thing is.
Are these graphic novel books or?
Oh no, this is my urban fantasy books.
Okay.
So here's this one. You can see it.
Okay.
And then here's this one. Here.
Those are really nice.
Thank you. So it's just living a creative life, and then getting into the podcasting stuff. Yeah, it's like I said, just living a creative life in some way. And as creators, I don't think it's more about it's not much so nowadays about creating work and beautiful work or entertainment for people. I think a lot of it now is creating solutions in a way, or plugging in holes for people. Like, say you spoke earlier about how like Marvel and DC aren't, their work isn't up to par like it used to be in a way, but now you have the indie comics people coming in, indie illustrators, whoever may be coming in and filling in those holes for with content that I feel like a lot of audience members want from those big people but aren't getting it in a way. So that's why I feel like that's where we kind of fit in. We're here to solve problems. And again, like you said, how with Zamir, when he can't be physically involved in anything, he has to use his mental to kind of problem solve things. And you try to illustrate trials and tribulations, whereas the reader, maybe going to do something in their life and they can't go about solving it in the conventional way. They have to go about it another way. So this could be an example for them. Again, through your art, through your words, and through that illustrative images, we are showing, or you are showing the reader how to solve their problems in a non-conventional way. So that's just how
that's perfect. That's
are.
perfect. Put a stamp on that. yeah, exactly. And I agree. I agree wholeheartedly. Because problem solving is life.
Yeah.
Problem solving is life, because every day has a different challenge. Something else is being thrown your way, whether you saw it coming or not. But you got to find a way to adjust accordingly. Absolutely. That's spot on. That's spot on.
I think you pretty much touched on it, but could you elaborate just a little bit more on your creative process on Treble, the rhythm within, I guess, as a whole? So this was a thought in your head to now working on it. Like, so, okay, it's a thought in my head. How am I going to do it? Like, I can write it, but I can't draw any of this. Okay, I got an artist, so how am I going to go about trying to express to them how I want this to be done? Okay, now it's done. Now I have to go out and promote it. So
okay. All right. So this idea of a character getting different superpowers based on music, I came up with in high school decades ago. Yeah, I came up with in high school. But at the time I wasn't focusing on that, whatever. Years later, me and my coworker are sitting in our cubicle, and I said, man, a long time ago, I had this idea about this guy make music, all the powers and all this stuff. He was like, yo, that's the coolest thing I've ever heard in my life. I'm like, oh, word. I'm like, okay. So I just started this, like, I went straight to Excel spreadsheet. Okay. I'm that guy. I'm Capitan OCD. Okay. So I'm like, I gotta have it all worked out. So I was like, okay, what kind of name would I have? What I name this guy? I said, I don't want to name something basic like Mike or Bob or Jim. I was like, hey, let's look up. See, I went back to Greek. I was like, let me find some cool Greek names, because like I used to talk all the time, like if I ever had a son, his name would be Themistocles and all will kneel before him, all that cool stuff. Well, I went back and I found a word that meant songbird, which in English is Zamir. So I was like, hey, that's a cool name. I said, let's use that. And I said, I'm going to take my mother's maiden name and give him his last name. So his name is Zamir Green. So I was like, hey, there it is. Boom. Good start. I was like, but now I need a good supporting cast. I want people. And I was heavily influenced by my own environment. I lived in Washington, D.C. for decades and decades and decades. So I was like, hey, and the characters start reflecting the people that I grew up with, the people that I hung out with and stuff like that. So then I was like, hey, I want to represent this character or a bunch of different people in this one character. And I said, he's going to be the voice of reason. And he's going to be the one that's always trying to keep Zamir on the straight line. And I'll have another one that's like, hey, just go for it. Let's just figure something out. Let's try to be heroes. Let's make things awesome. So I went through all that. So Excel spreadsheets. So I got character bios out the wazoo with character spreadsheets. So then I was like, okay, I got all my characters done. I was like, okay, powers. I need another spreadsheet. So I'll make another one and break down, like, hey, blah, 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 blah. So I got all the powers written down. So, okay, how are we getting this thing started? How do we get this thing started? And so when I was growing up, there was there there was this disease called mad cow disease. I don't know if you remember it. I don't know if you're around then, but it was mad cow disease. And I remember when I was young, when I was a teenager, I was like, man, that's the funniest sounding disease I've ever heard. But I never knew where it came from. When I was a kid, I was a teenager, whatever. I was like, I don't know where it came from, and I don't know why these cows are so mad, but I think that's funny. So I was like, hey, what if I came up with a virus? What if I came up with a sickness, but I know where it comes from, and I can make that the catalyst to start my story? And I took influence from that idea of mad cow disease and static shock. I don't know if you familiar with the whole origins of it, but the whole bang babies and all that cool stuff with the at the nuclear waste place, and then the gas cloud, and infected a bunch of people. So I took that idea. I was like, hey, I said, let me make it a water-based virus, because in Washington, D.C., we have a huge water treatment plant right on 395, which everybody passes, and everybody wants to close their nose. It smells like garbage. So I was like, hey, I'm going to have somebody infect the water treatment plant with a mutagen. And so, because no one's going to suspect that anything's wrong or smell anything wrong, because it smells gross anyway. So nobody would suspect a thing. So I went there. I said, that's perfect. Perfect. I said, now what kind of effect is going to have? I'm going to have them have like body chills, like general cold stuff, so people won't think it's out of the ordinary. So I took that, said, okay, cool, but now we can build this. We're going to give them this blood type, all this stuff. So I wrote the whole first draft, revised it at least 300,000 times. And I'm like, okay, cool, I got it. I can't draw. I can't draw at all. I got to find an artist that, for me, I wanted an American manga style art. And that's what I was aiming for, because there's classical, there's traditional, like when you see like Superman or whatever the case may be. I said, but that's not really the angle I'm going for. I'm not looking for big muscle bound. I'm looking for normal people, normal looking people. And if you look at like manga, a lot of them are normal people, but they have Super Saiyan abilities all the time. But I was like, hey, I got to find an artist that can mirror that style. And so I put it out on this site called ZWOL, ZWOL. Ooh, English is hard. ZWOL. And a couple people said, hey, here's a sample, send it to me, like what you got and everything. And then I struck gold with my partner, and now very good friend now, Federico Corsini. Like, he's one of the best artists in the game. And he was like, hey, I want to take a crack at your action sequence that you wrote together. So I put together I wrote together like an action sequence. I sent it his way, and it was beautiful. I was like, you're hired, good sir. You're hired, good sir. And one thing he had brought out to me, he said, Dre, I didn't ever have to think about what it looked like because of how you described it. Because me, I am a very descriptive individual. And I used to go to drama school and stuff like that. And I am all about direction. Because if there's direction, it takes away guesswork. For instance, if I was looking at you and I was gonna write it regularly, I was like Kez Gardner, she is sitting there with her hand on her neck, and her hair, tiny braids, background, there's a door and monitors. That's traditional. Me, this is me. Kez Gardner is sitting in the midground of the panel. Her left hand is placed directly on her neck, slightly under her chin. Her glasses have drooped just ever so slightly, right at the nose bridge. Her twists are about medium height and come to about ear length. In the midground of the background, the center, there are 2 monitors. Right behind it are 2 doors. And that's how I described every single panel. And that's how I broke down every single panel, because if you leave things to guesswork, your vision will not be realized. And that's not how I get down. I am very, very specific on how things are placed, where things are going, how everything is supposed to fit, because because if it's in my brain, that doesn't mean my artist can see what's in my brain. I need to be as specific as humanly possible so that the artist can literally just draft my brain. So after we got all that and we were producing the first issue and all that stuff, I was like, look, I'm gonna go ahead and try to pitch this to what did I pitch it to? I think Antarctic Press. I think I pitched the Antarctic Press, I think, the first time, and some other people got denied left, right. I'm like, I'm gonna have to make my own company. And that's when I produced, there you go, Brutal Playing Comics. That's when I created it. I was like, yep, I'm gonna make my own, and I'm going to produce my own work and direct my own work and self-publish all my own work. And so I don't have to worry about having denial letters thrown in my face and all that other nonsense. I said, yo, I'm gonna do it and grind it out myself. And then I reached out to one of my comic shops that I frequent. I was like, hey, look, I'm releasing this new issue. Hey, will you host me? They were like, oh yeah, absolutely, yeah, come on over. And we made a whole event out of it. We made a whole event of my first issue being released, and it went over. Oh man, I sold so many copies of the first issue and signed a whole bunch, and like kids came. It was just a wonderful experience. And I was like, hey, I'm gonna keep doing this. I'm gonna keep doing this. This went over really, really well. Like, I'm gonna keep doing it. Unfortunately, when I had about 3 or 4 events lined up for my second issue release. But then of course, then COVID happened. And then I was like, oh, well, now what? Digital. I got to figure that out. Now I got to figure out how digital works. Now I had to go digging, like, okay, how am I going to market digital? How am I going to market this? And I said, well, no, I got to start getting following on social media. Good Lord. Now I got to try to do that and build a little bit of following. Say, hey, I'm not doing print here, but hey, the digital is available, blah, blah, blah. Had a little mini digital event, meet and greet on what I use, Zoom, Zoom. And it went over really well, went over real nice. Then I started teaming up with some of my partners at Spinwiz Comics, and now we're getting print on demand set up now. And so now it's like, hey, we're doing digital and we're doing print. So it's like, hey, you like the hard copies, right in your mittens? Cool. If you want them signed, I send them out myself. I have a whole stack of them. I sign them and everything, send them out to whoever wants to sign, like collector's editions, whatever they like to do, and just grind it out. So I know that was a mouthful, but
no, you answered it perfectly, pretty much from start to finish. It's exactly what I wanted.
Yeah. But it's not easy. For those that might just think about starting it, of course, it's not easy, but nothing that's ever worth it ever is easy.
Yeah.
So those that may have some trepidation about doing it, just do it. Just do it. Just plan out really well. Think about where your end game is, what your goals are. Strategize and get it in.
Mm-hmm. Well, switching the gears a little bit, how
Sure.
has your journey been interviewing creators and reviewing, I guess, various mediums for your YouTube channel, Brutal Planet Comics?
Okay. So when it comes to interviewing other creators, first of all, it's a good problem to have when you have too many people that want to be on your show. It's a good problem to have. I'm never short of, I'm never sitting there like, oh my God, who can I get? It's not even even close. I'm like, how can I get rid of some of these people? You know, it's like
Yeah, I'm
it's
kind
so
of like
many.
sometimes I kind of hope like I hope they just don't show up. I mean, having the rest of my day free. I mean, it's because it's a lot. So it's a lot.
Yeah, yeah, it's a lot, but it's rewarding in of itself. Because one, I love sitting down and talking to people and having them share their craft. Because a lot of them don't share it. A lot of comic writers like myself and a lot of others are introverted people. are. That's why we have all these creative things going on in our head. We have plenty of time to sit there and talk to ourselves for so long. So for them to be like, hey, I really want to share it. I don't think it's any good. Blah, blah, blah. I was like, no, man, come on, come talk to me, share it with me. And I made a platform to help my fellow creators build confidence in themselves and build confidence in their own work. And that in itself is a reward. It's a reward for someone to be like, hey, look, if you didn't ever sit there and give me the opportunity to talk about it, I may never have produced or anything like that. I was like, hey, look, man, we're all here together. The indie comic scene is straight up the farmers market. It's the farmers market. We all come together. We all bring something different to the table. We're all working together to try to get the same goal. It's it's a beautiful, beautiful thing. Um, and I love it because like usually I'm cracking up because people are telling me the stories of how they came up with certain stories and like oh my wife did that to me that one day and now I'm like no I'm writing about it and like all these cool origin things and to hear people's journeys because everybody's journey is different and to see like oh I came from this background or that background I didn't understand how this worked or that worked but now I'm like hey now I want to produce like this. Like it's a beautiful thing to see everybody's different path to it. So for that aspect, I really, really enjoy it. I think it's fun and it's a beautiful thing to do. Now, as far as my media coverage, it's usually me just losing my mind for about 15, 20 minutes every time. I'm just absolutely losing it, going absolutely bonkers. Sometimes on things that are really, really cool, like a certain like announcement or something like or a new comic line that's coming out or an old story or even to like old classic. Like I recently, maybe a couple months ago, did a top 5 um comic book video games. Oh my god, I geeked out for 20 minutes straight. Like, it was absolutely nonsense. And then I did a top 5 manga based video games. Lost my mind completely. But then it's like tackling certain shows that I once revered or thought I really liked or loved. And then I'm just like, yo, I gotta talk about how terrible this crap is now. And then I break down like, yo, what happened? Somebody talk to me. It's definitely therapeutic. It's definitely therapeutic for me. Maybe well, last couple months I was in a bit of a uh, downturn. I wasn't really feeling good about myself. Had going through some things in life and things like that. But I was able to vent a bit on it by doing character studies. Like I discussed Qui-Gon Jinn from Star Wars and how I could relate to him, and Rorschach from The Watchmen, and Miss Marvel, Carol Danvers, OG Miss Marvel, not Kamala Khan and none of this other nonsense. OG Miss Marvel, the old character, and how I could relate to her and stuff like that. And Moomin Rider, and like I went and talked about that type of stuff, and it's therapeutic. It definitely helps me get through the day. But at the same time, somebody else might be going through something too, and they can see like, hey, look, you know what? Like, hey, I can relate to this character. I can relate to how that works. For me, it's therapeutic. It's fun. And I get a lot of cool, fun interaction with people expressing themselves or how much they like this character or like this game or didn't like it or hate what I got to say. So it all works. It all works out, all in one circle. That's what I just did. A circle. That's it. Yeah.
So, what advice could you offer, or would you offer to other creators, whether it be they want to get into doing the YouTube stuff, they want to get into comic writing, they want to get into just producing any other type of content that you wish someone would have told you when you first started?
Ooh, now that's the kicker. That's you got me right on the back end. There it is. Yeah, what somebody should have told me. So far as YouTube is concerned, do it for fun. That's one thing I would say. Do it for fun. Don't do it to try to go viral. Don't do it to try to make a bazillion dollars. because you'll easily disappoint yourself. Easily disappoint yourself. Do it for fun. Do it because you're like, hey, I like talking about this, so I'm gonna get up here and talk about it. And anybody else that don't like it, whatever, I'm having a good time. That's what I'll say for YouTube. That's one advice I would definitely give, because YouTube careers are far and in between. But if you're doing it for fun and this is a passion of yours, do it. If the money come, the money come, but do it because you love it. Now, as far as the writing game, now definitely some advice I wish someone gave me was finding people, because no man's an island. You heard the expression, no man's an island. Finding people that really want to legitimately help you on your journey is slim. And I wish I was told that early on, because like me, I'm a pessimist by nature, but like when it comes to me trying to get things done, sometimes relying on other people, they'll drag their feet. They're like, oh, I got other stuff to do or whatever. But even though this thing is something so important to you, but to them, it may be just another average Thursday. Find people that not only believe in what you're doing, but are going to support what you're doing, especially in the comic industry, because there are a lot of highs and lows when it comes to this. Because there's going to be, I can tell you, matter of fact, I had a writer's block last night. I had a writer's block last night. I sat there and stared at the screen for like an hour like this. I'm like, okay, who can I reach out to? And then like a buddy of mine was like, oh yeah, I can see how where you at. Like, hey, try this. Like, oh, boom, but it's far in between. Somebody's going to really have your back when it comes to writing, when it comes to producing. Get a team together that you can trust and rely on. And don't worry about if your work is good. I promise you, the first thing you ever write is going to be trash. You have my word. It is. My first writings, I still have them on this computer. So once in a while, I look back at it and say, this is trash. Thank God I didn't produce it. But it's okay. Write trash, because the more you write trash, the more refined you become, tempered with the flames. And then you can actually write something that's actually really cool. So definitely don't be afraid to write trash, and definitely get a team that you can trust.
So throughout this whole process, not even just this process, but pretty much throughout everything that you do, right? With the YouTube, and then with Treble, and then, whatever it is you produce creatively, I should say. But then you also have your own family life and other responsibilities that you have. Do you, or have you ever gotten overwhelmed? Does it ever become too much in a way? And if it has, how do you typically manage your mental well-being?
Now that is an excellent question. To answer your first question, does it get overwhelming? Yes, most definitely does. Insomnia helps. Insomnia does help to get some stuff done at night. But mental health is extremely important. And I'm only recently, honestly, understanding this, maybe in the last 6 months or so, of the importance of mental and emotional health. Balance is the key. Nothing is more important than family. And that's just my feelings. My feelings is like family first, everything else comes second. That's me. Other people have different beliefs, but for me, I'm like, hey, I got to take care of my family. But it's hard because you're trying to be a husband, father, whatever. And at the same time, you have to go to regular work or whatever the case may be, so the bills are paid, and then you're trying to create something beautiful so that you can get rid of the other job so you can focus on this full time. It's a challenge. And about a year ago, unfortunately, my mother-in-law had passed away, and that was a really rough time for our family. And I had to pretty much stop all of my extracurricular activities, and pay absolute attention to my wife and, and everything. Because I was elbow deep in a lot of stuff because I had this diabetes diagnosis and all this stuff. So I'm doing all these things. I'm back doing jujitsu. I'm doing all this stuff. I'm back doing all types of stuff so I can get my health together while at the same time trying to produce all this work while working full time. Then I had to stop. I just had to stop. I said, there's no way I'm gonna be able to take care of my wife and take care of the house, and especially on my wife at this point, because good grief, everything else had to be put on hold. And that's where I had to start learning balance, because you can't do it all. You can't do it all. Priorities are important. And at that point in time, my priority, of course, was to my family, to make sure that, everything's on the up and up, because I can't be here being passionate about all my work and all that stuff while somebody's crying in the other room. It's just not the way it is. But it is a struggle. It's a struggle to balance it in the proper way. But once you discover how to, I don't want to use the term do it all, that's not really it. But once you discover, like, hey, this is the time I've allotted for my work. This is the time I've allotted for my family. This is the time I've allotted for X, Y, and Z. Scheduling is key. And do not break the schedule. Because you break the schedule, eventually you're going to break this. Once this goes, everything else falls apart. Your projects, your regular job, family, whatever else you got going on, it all goes down the toilet the moment this starts snapping. So one thing I will say is find balance behind your work and your family and your projects. Balance must be found.
Mm-hmm. Well, my last question for you, Dre,
Sure.
is what is your idea of success? So I ask that because as creators, if we're not getting regular paychecks from a full-time job or making consistent revenue from our art, we're considered failures, or we'll consider ourselves failures, right? Many of us will put our dreams and projects on the back burner or give them up altogether because this career path can be highly intimidating and competitive. So what is your idea of quote unquote success?
That's a really good question. You on fire with these Jones. Okay. My view of success. Wow. My view of success is more internal than external. Mm-hmm. My view of success would be, I am proud of the work I've produced. I am proud of the impact that I am attempting. I can look back and be like, hey, I did a good job with this. Like, maybe everybody doesn't love it or everybody hates it, whatever the case may be. I'm like, but I put my heart into it. I put my soul into it. I can look back at it and say, hey, this is mine. And I created it. And I can put my stamp on, like, hey, you put together a really, really strong effort. If people love it, that's great too. People buy it, even better. But as long as I can look back at the things I've accomplished, the things I've done, and I can say, I am proud of me, that is where I will find my success.
Okay. Well, is there anything else that you want to touch on about Treble, the Rhythm Within as a whole, that I may have missed?
But you've been very thorough. Very thorough. Well done. Nothing else I want to touch on except that check it out. Everybody can check it out on spinwiz.com or the Spinwiz app. I also offer the digital issue #1 for free. So if you want to just, all the folks who just want to download it and check it out, see if you love it, that'd be dope. If you want to support it and buy some hard copies, hey, I'm cool with that too. It's a labor of love. I put a lot of heart and soul to. Oh, that's right. I'm wearing my shirt too. Yeah. Merch coming soon. Merch coming soon, but it's been a labor of love. Definitely want to give a shout out to the SpinWiz crew, my partners. They helped me out tremendously. But as far as the comic is concerned, issue number 6. My God, I'm producing so many of these. Yes, number 6 drops tomorrow, which will be April 8th, for digital download and print on demand. So get caught up on the other 5 issues. You can get them all at spinwiz.com or SpinWiz app, or hit me up on all those dope social media platforms over there. If you want signed copies, let me know. Or if you want to hit me up on YouTube and talk about it, it's right there as well. Anytime, any place, you can always hit me up and talk to me about my comic. It's everywhere. So
all right. Well, again, I want to thank comics writer, producer, and fellow entertainment journalist Dre Daniels, aka DaBrute, for joining us today to promote his Treble, the Rhythm Within comic series, the first arc, I should say. I highly recommend our listeners to consider checking out Treble, the Rhythm Within, and or purchase. Would you say it's like the 5th or 6th?
This 6 is coming out on April 8th. Issue 6 is April 8th.
Pretty much tomorrow.
Yeah, tomorrow.
Tomorrow. Today's the 7th, and it's coming out tomorrow. But this episode will be out. So by the time this episode comes out, issue part 6 should be out. So yeah, if they can check out all 6 issues, or if you want to purchase all 6 issues, that would be even better. Also, to subscribe to Dre's Brutal Planet Comics YouTube. If you he's pointing towards it for those who don't know. All of Dre's socials and website will be listed in this episode's details for those who are interested. Again, I am KS Garner, and you have been listening to the Solo Nerd Bird Podcast. Thank you.